Sens come back the other way. Giroux on the near side, centering pass. Norris, and he scores! Josh Norris open to scoring for the Ottawa Senators.
And that is courtesy of TSN, and it would give 41 seconds into the game for the Senators in Toronto. It would give the Sens an insurmountable lead the way the Sens played in that game. But that was Josh Norris scoring early in the first. Sens would go on to a 3-0 victory. Very tidy dub for the locals. It is Steve Warren along with the coach, Greg Kennedy. Greg, how are you today?
I am good, Stephen. I was pleasantly surprised at how good Kenzie Lalonde was last night. At first, maybe it's the old male in me thinking, oh, God, and yet another change in the TSN broadcast crew, but I thought she was great.
Yeah, for a debut, I thought she was really solid. And, I think it's a little like an offensive lineman, right? If you're noticing the offensive lineman in football, then chances are they're doing something wrong. I found that she just blended seamlessly and also called a good game. And I thought right out of the gate in your debut, it's only going to get better from here as well. I thought she did great, and a meteoric rise to a pretty good career on the way for Kenzie Lalonde. So congratulations to her, and kudos to the Sens on a great performance. I thought across the board. I don't even like think about this season. Like, we might be talking many years since you saw a full 60-minute, no lulls, no swoons, no let up. Like, I don't know if I've seen a 60-minute performance like that from the Sens in quite some time. How about you?
And it was back to back. Like, don't forget the Boston game. It was impressive. They almost held an opposition to zero shots over 20 minutes of play again. Like, it's just amazing that when they're doing the right thing, Steve, when the forecheck game's in place, when guys are covering for each other and they're layered, and it's so much fun to watch this team actually be successful, and it gets you excited. And if you're a longtime fan, you should be excited. Now, again, I got to temper it, Steve. They haven't turned a corner yet because we got the Flyers here next game. But, man, what a performance. That was a great game all around.
Yeah, as much as I enjoyed the Boston game on Saturday, I thought this one was, it was. Yeah, Travis Green talked a little bit about how he kind of mushed them together and that they are both good performances. But I thought it was better. It didn't have that 2-minute swoon where you gave up a couple of goals to Boston and you kind of had to fight your way back into the game. It just felt like I'm only joking when I say 1-0 felt insurmountable, but it wasn't that long in the game where I was like, I don't think there's any chance the Sens are going to blow this one tonight. And that's a rarity. If you're a Sens fan, even when you have 2 and 3 goal leads, you're just waiting for the shoe to drop a lot of the times. So, let's hope they can steer this thing home. And they got it done, and they did it against the rival on the road. That's the thing about those 2 games, both on the road. Very impressive. It's not getting any easier, mind you. They got Philadelphia, but they've got some big gunners on the way, and in the Carolinas and the Edmontons on the way. So I like the way Travis Green was handling his news conference today. It really was it wasn't as bland as Bill Belichick's. We're on to Cincinnati now, but it did have that tone of like, okay, that was great that we just did there. Yeah, we have a long season ahead of us, and let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I'll let Travis Green. I'm putting words in Travis Green's mouth when Travis Green is right here.
It was a good game last night, guys. Much like the Boston game, played well. We're prepared to play mentally and physically, and you play a game, and then you move on, get ready for the next one.
But Blake Garchom's seems to be really catching up to speed here now, and obviously, as he does, did it make Jake Sanderson's game better last night?
Yeah, not just Jake's game. It just makes everyone's game better. He's a good defenseman, solid defender, smart. It's good to have him back in the lineup. Not surprising that his game, I think, has steadily improved from game 1 to game 3 since he's been back. And, he looks up to speed now.
What have you done right the last 2 games that have allowed you to have success? Or get
a lot of things. Our team is, first of all, every player is playing to win. And, we're playing connected. Oh, but to play connected, you have to skate. You have to you have to work. There's a lot that goes into playing well, to playing good hockey. And, we're starting to play the way we want. For the last couple of games, we've had some good games this year that we've really liked. We've had probably 3 or 4 that we haven't liked as much. And consistency is a big part of winning in the NHL.
So that is courtesy of the Ottawa Senators. Travis Green in conversation with the media. And the thing that I liked there was that one clip of we're starting to play the way we want. And like you were just saying, you don't want to get ahead of yourself or anything, but those are good signs, and you just try and keep building on that.
Yeah, and you can see things early in a game. Like you start watching the Senators, and you pay attention to certain things. You notice that no matter where the puck is or what's happening on your TV screen, you can almost always see all 5 guys. That's a good sign. Yeah. You notice that when somebody goes in a forecheck, if a pass goes up the wall, there's somebody there, like basically in a trap zone, pinching down on a guy, or if it goes D to D, F2's jumping on that guy right away. D zone, you see how quickly they close gaps. You can notice things like that for the first 5 minutes of a game most nights, and you can tell, okay, yeah, they've got it tonight. And then the only test that comes after that is, can they kill penalties tonight? And they did a damn good job of that too against Toronto. And here they are. Yeah, 2 in a row. Yeah, yet again, Steve. Win 2, lose 2. Who knows what's going to happen next? But for now, yeah, they're looking good, and they seem to be getting it. Now they just got to keep it.
Well, for Linus Ullmark, that's the first 2-game win streak he's been able to put together this year, and he gets a shutout, his first as a Senator. It's kind of interesting that we were a little worried about his stats, right? The stats, they're well below 900 and up over 3 as far as goals against average. Well, couple of games like that in Boston and Toronto. And it's a reminder, I think, for everybody not to freak out about early season goalie stat percentages, because now his goals against average right now is better than it was last year in Boston. So it doesn't take too long early in the season to kind of turn things around, but it was all a good thing. And another thing that just to add on to the things you were talking about playing the right way and such, they're really doing a good job, especially the skill guys. And I can criticize them from just every once in a while. You see them failing to track back, really laying out to get back into position, not necessarily to catch anybody, but to maybe angle away so that cross ice pass that the guy that's coming down the right wing is looking to make to the guy on the far side, and maybe burn the defenseman as a result of it. You'll see a Brady Tkachuk. You'll see a Tim Stützle who's in the middle of the ice, and he's hustling back just to take away that passing lane. I'm seeing that again and again and they weren't always, bad at that, but I'm seeing them being pretty consistent in that area too.
Yeah, and the word that we got a lot from DJ, tracking. DJ often spoke of tracking. That's guys tracking back, right? Coming back and filling lanes. You need somebody pressuring the puck here a little bit, but you also need somebody taking away the mid lane, somebody on the far side of the ice. You got guys tracking back. They did a really, really good job. Like, you limited odd man rushes. You limited shots from the slot. They're like all world numbers in the Leaf game in those 2 areas in particular. And that's, high danger scoring chances. This team gives up a lot of them and has historically in the last few years. But last 2 games have been really good.
So he also, Travis Green, talked about Artem Zub, or at least was asked about him. He doesn't really talk about anything by his own volition. Anything you hear Travis Green talk about at a news conference, it's because he's asked about it. He doesn't, he doesn't volunteer a lot of information. You kind of have to pry it a bit, but he was asked about Artem Zub, and he spoke glowingly of him. And I think that's the first game Zub really started to look like himself again, and that's great to see. And between him and Nick Jensen, and of course we all know about Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot, like that top 4 is really rounding into something that, there were times the top 4 last year looked like a liability. And certainly, at least in the last 2 games, they look like, and I knock on wood when I say this, but they do look like 4 guys that are starting to figure things out together.
Yeah, it's another word we hear a lot in discussing the Senators, and that word is slotting. Everything slots in nicely when everybody's healthy, especially on the blue line. Yes, Travis Hamonic isn't the greatest, but you know what? He plays in a 5-6 role. He's just fine, and he's been just fine. But it's because of the fact that Zub is back and healthy, and Zub solidifies things up in the second pair or first pair, whichever you want to call it, playing with Sanderson. And Jensen's just been what a find for the Senators to bring in Jensen to play with Shabbat. Shabbat's resurrected. Jensen, I think, is playing like he's 25 again. It just everybody slots in right, and everything just goes nice and smooth. And it's been a long time since we've had a top four here in Ottawa that actually looks like a top four.
Yeah, when you look at Jensen, the guy is, and I know that people gripe about the plus minus stat. It definitely has its warts. But most stats do. You can always look at every stat and go, well, yeah, but there's this angle. Plus minus is one of the worst offenders in that area, but I still think there's information to be gathered there, particularly when you have an outlier like Jensen. Jensen right now is plus 11 on this team. The next best on the team is plus 4, and that's his partner, Thomas Chabot. There's information in there, I think, to be garnered, Greg.
Yeah, well, it's the old E.J. McGuire quote, and I'm not sure if it was him, but that's where I got it from. Use statistics the way a drunk uses a lamppost, for illumination, not for support. You use it to provide some illumination on some things, and you see things that you don't necessarily see otherwise. You don't have to, they're not there to support any argument and oh my God, this is the way it has to be because the stats say so. Just look at it for what it highlights. It highlights something here, it highlights something there. And in this case, it's the defensive scheme for the Senators. A lot of things get highlighted when they have those good stat nights, and you can look at it and go, yeah, you know what? That's true. I noticed that. I noticed this. They do a good job with that. They're doing a good job with that. That's why the stats come out the way they come out, and they look good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that trade, when you look back to July 1st when Jacob Chychrun was traded away to Washington, Sens get a third rounder and Nick Jensen. There was no shortage of people who said, hey, you might have got a little more for him than that. And now you're seeing exactly what Steve Staios was talking about and just rebalancing things. And it's like the Norris Trophy debate that it's always going to the offensive guys. But who do opposing forwards really hate playing against? It's the guys who are stay-at-home defensemen who are working their ass off, who are being physical out there. Those are the guys that opposing forwards hate playing against. And Steve Staios, who was one of those defensemen himself, also a right shot. Nick Jensen's kind of a young Steve Staios out there. And if GM Steve Staios was unable to recognize anything else, he recognized the absence of that element because it's what he brought for 1,001 games in the National Hockey League. And so I don't think anybody's second guessing the Chychrun deal now, are they?
No, you're absolutely right. Like he's an Anton Volchenkov, what Anton Volchenkov was here for so long. He's what a Mark Mathot was for his brief time here. He's a solidifier. He's a steady Eddie. He's a glue guy. He's make people around him better just because he makes smart decisions. He's been awesome for Chabot.
Now let me play another clip from Travis Green here. This is Travis Green talking about Nick Jensen. He was asked specifically about him. I think it was Brent Wallace that said it, that asked him about Nick Jensen. And I thought it was, I might be reading way too much into it, but he used a certain word twice in his answer. Have a listen.
Nick Jensen's game. He'll never be one. Rarely will he get the star attention, if you will. But what do you see in his game and how valuable it is to you? Nick Jensen.
Yeah.
To your back end.
Yeah, he's been a good surprise, especially the last, I'd say, 8 games, somewhere in that number. I think, coming to a different system, different city, through exhibition, we saw his game kind of go from, where it was at the beginning to ramping up. And as he's got comfortable in our system, in the city, in the new team, his game is really elevated. He's now using his compete and his hockey sense, his work ethic to play a real strong game. And it's been a pleasant surprise, but he's played well. That's courtesy of the Ottawa Senators, Travis Green in conversation with the media. The word surprise in there, that Travis Green is, he says it's been a great surprise, pleasant surprise, something along those lines.
but he used the word surprise twice about Nick Jensen. And that's kind of an odd thing to say for a coach, because when you think about it, Staios' vision is exactly what's happening right now. Jensen's come in, he's rebalanced things, he's stabilized things. What's happening right now is what Staios absolutely, that was his plan. Mm-hmm. And for Travis Green to say that his boss's plan, he's surprised it's a success, I thought that was kind of an odd thing for a coach to say, didn't you?
Well, I don't know that he's surprised that Staios is having success. I think it's more specifically relating to Nick Jensen. As you alluded to earlier, it's like the offensive lineman. You never see him, you never notice him. I don't know how much Travis Green ever would have noticed a Nick Jensen toiling with the Washington Capitals when they played them. And I think that's probably the surprising part. I think it's the surprising part for probably a lot of us, that we had no idea that this guy could be as simple and stabilizing a force as he has been, because he's not that flashy guy. He's just a guy who moves the puck, makes smart decisions, gets in the way, plays lanes, good stick, all that stuff. I think maybe it's that he is a better defenseman than Travis Green thought he was.
Right. I suppose so. Yeah. And I think one of the surprises for me, I'm not surprised, because on the day he was acquired, I wrote a thing talking about how important it was to get some D in there.
Yeah.
But what I am surprised about is that he's got a little more offensive push than I gave him credit for. He was a guy that pushed close to 30 points one season, but that was the outlier. But he looks like a guy right now that has an outside shot at that, the way he's been going. He's cooled off a little bit, but every once in a while he does some really clever things offensively with the puck, and everything else has come as advertised. So I was surprised to hear Travis Green talk in terms of being surprised about something that is going exactly the way Steve Staios had planned it. But yeah, anything further on that?
No, I'm with you. I agree with you on the offense too. More offense than I expected, but you've got offensively talented, gifted players playing in front of you. You get the puck to the right guy at the right time, something's going to happen, and you're picking up an apple. You're playing the point, you get a puck on net, or a low to high, and you find somebody down low again, it ends up in the net, you're picking up apples. So it's in a sense, it's not surprising, but yeah, historically, looking at his stats, it is a bit of a surprise that he's producing the way he's producing. But we're happy. Get the points.
Right. So Nick Jensen did talk to the media as well, and the first thing he was grumbling about was the fact that in the Toronto game, he got Nick Robertson's stick right off a face-off in the offensive zone. Got a stick blade right up around the face, and he was cut for stitches, and that was the thing that he was addressing right out of the gate.
I think they said, I don't know what they said it because the play hadn't started yet. I don't really know why that has anything to do with it, but there's only 2 refs out there. I guess I can't say anything, but that is the third stitches I've had to get that hasn't been called a penalty. So
no teeth or anything?
No teeth, just a big gash in my mouth.
Aside from that, in the last 9 games, I think you're plus 11. How would you assess the way your game has been going, and how would you assess the partnership with you and Thomas?
Yeah, I think it's been going good. I think the trend has been upward, obviously. I think the last 2 games, I think the team has been more the outstanding part of it. I think my game personally, the last 2 games hasn't been the best it's been all year, but getting the win is way more important than any of that. But overall, I think the play is trending upward. I think Thomas is, he's obviously a very highly skilled player, very, very easy to play with, works, wants the puck, competes. I think it's just a combination, same things that I focus on. So when you got 2D out there trying to do the same thing like that, I think it's really easy to play.
Up on the housetop, dip. Oh, hey, it's Steve here for Celebrate. I'm just putting on my old school Christmas lights with these obnoxious little plastic clips in minus 30-degree temperature at the top of this ladder 12 feet off the ground. No, I'm not doing any of that anymore. No, sir. Celebrate.ca. I urge you to check them out today.
Celebrate is your permanent holiday lighting solution. So many options. St. Paddy's Day green, Team Canada red and white, orange for Halloween, and the beautiful colors of Christmas. And Celebrate is all controlled from your smartphone.
And Celebrate's installers were absolutely fantastic and professional. I urge you to check them out today. Celebrate.ca. It's a wobbly ladder.
But the bigger thing is Shane Pinto was in the lineup. Steve.
Yeah,
that was great to see Pinto back in the lineup. Again, just slotting, solidifying things, playing with Gregor and Amadio at a regular shift. That was a big deal to me. Shane Pinto's back. Zub's back. David Perron will be back shortly. Things are looking up. It's great to have Pinto back.
Yeah, and you talk about players that get back in the lineup and they make others around them better. Jensen arrives, he makes Shabbat better. You've got Pinto in there, and he makes Amadio better. And it's you see it again and again. And for some reason, with Pinto in the lineup, their record is out of control good. And there's another W since he's been in the lineup, and he has the intangibles too. Like I think he gives along with all the skill he brings on the ice and good two-way play. He's also a guy in the dressing room that, other guys love to make laugh, real spirit and energy. And that's an intangible that goes along with Shane Pinto. Seems like a guy that really keeps the room loose.
Yeah, it's great. It friends with a lot of them to begin with before he even arrived, the UND crew. But I've heard many of those stories. You've been in the room, how much of a loved guy he is in the room, and how much they care about him, and how much they realize his importance and what he brings. It makes everything so much easier, right? It seems like this is a pretty tight group. Again, I don't know that there's anybody who's on the outs. It looks like they're all a good tight group. The young guys merge well with some of the older guys, and it's a good tight group.
So the Sens are hosting the Philadelphia Flyers on Thursday night. What sort of a game are you expecting out of John Tortorella and his boys?
I'm expecting the John Tortorella's Flyers to play a game very similar, or attempt to play a game very similar to what the Senators have been playing lately. Some sort of a consistent smothering forecheck, some kind of a consistent physical battle all night long, all zones. A lot of shot blocking. It is a Tortorella team. I would think that for when Philadelphia is successful, they play the game the exact way that Travis Green wants the Senators to play the game. But I would think that if you've got two teams playing that same game, the difference makers have to be the difference makers. And the Senators have the far more explosive offensive weapons than Philadelphia. So I would think that all things being equal, that's going to be the big difference. I think that the Senators should get a dub here on Thursday night. They're the better team, I think, on paper. It should be the better team on the ice. Their stars will provide the difference, I think, on Thursday night.
Yeah, and it's an indicator game for me. In the past, when they do have a couple of good games like this would be the kind of opponent that they would have trouble with or lose to. And if this team is really in a situation where, again, never get too high, never get too low, on to the next game, keep your work boots on, whatever cliche you want to throw in there. If this team is turning a corner, these are the types of games that, and you don't have to necessarily win, but you can't come out and lay an egg. Mm-hmm. And Nick Jensen talked about that too. And it's not about, and everybody talks about it, coaches, players. It also has become nearly cliche, but the idea of trusting the process. You can't control the wins, but you can control the process. So if you go out, and we saw it against the Rangers, for example, and against Vegas, fans can deal with losses. Every team loses. Like the Stanley Cup winner is going to lose 30, 35 games this year. You can't roll around saying, that's unacceptable. No, you have to accept losses. It's part of the deal. But it's the nature of the losses. You don't want to get embarrassed on home ice and have the kind of loss that really sets you on your heels and sends you into a 2-3 game tailspin. You just trust the process, and that's what I'm looking for out of the Sens tomorrow, that they're starting to turn that corner.
Agree completely. Well said.
So the schedule is Sens Flyers on Thursday. Saturday, you got Sens in Carolina, which, by the way, if you look that up historically, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but historically, and I talked to Pierre Dorian about this the other night, it just came up in conversation that for whatever reason, the Sens don't do well in Buffalo. Pierre said, I can't remember a time we won in Buffalo, to be honest. I said, Carolina's like that too. Oh, yeah, that's one. And so hopefully there's another statement game potentially, because that's a place in Raleigh where they don't do very well historically. And then they will host the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid on Tuesday. So, no easy outs for the next little while. Golden Knights are looming as well the following Thursday. And so, a lot of good tests coming up for the mighty Sens.
That's fine. Like, if you're for real, then we're okay with it. We don't expect you to win 4 of them, but show up for every game, play the game the right way, do the things you're supposed to do, execute the expected systems play, execute it properly, and take whatever result you get. Simple.
So again, Sens Flyers, Tortorella versus Green. And just for fun on the hockey news, I did a thing last week about how EA Sports is for the first time in their NHL video games, NHL 25, they've put coaches into the mix. So when they have cutaways from the video game, they go to the bench, they have the actual face of the coach. And Travis Green looks pretty bang on. Sometimes with computers and video games, you get the eyes all wrong and they look weird and stuff. I don't know if Travis Green got his face scanned or something by EA Sports, but he actually looks pretty bang on. Whereas John Tortorella, on the other hand, if you get a chance, go online and make that your internet homework and check out what John Tortorella looks like in EA Sports. They'd have been better off putting a stick figure behind the Flyers bench. It's so bad. So bad.
I don't know that I'm going to buy the game to find out, but now I've got to find out somehow.
Tortorella is so bad.
Now, hey,
that'll do it for today's show.
Actually, no, sorry to interrupt again. Did you catch any of the speeches at the Hall of Fame?
I did not. I've not done that yet.
Oh, man.
I don't watch it. I don't watch speeches live. I just sort of
PVR.
Scan. Yeah, exactly. So why? What did something grab you?
Jeremy Roenick was phenomenal. You expect Jeremy Roenick to be colorful. You expect some humor. He spoke from the heart. There was tears. There was laughs. He was just phenomenal. And the nicest thing of it was, and to me anyway, like Pavel Datsyuk spoke, and all I saw was the top of his head while he read from a piece of paper. Jeremy Roenick used a teleprompter. Like he was talking, and because there's no way it wasn't written somewhere, but he didn't look at his notes and he spoke. He was obviously looking at a teleprompter. He was phenomenal, Steve. You want to find that somewhere and listen to his spiel. The jokes, the joke about Mike Keenan, the joke about Al Secord, his apology to his best buddy Tony Amonte, his thoughts on Big Walt Kachuk, just a really, really good speech.
Well, I love Jeremy Roenick as a player.
Here.
I was a Chicago Blackhawks fan, and this is just before the Sens got here. And big Denny Savard fan, Steve Larmer, Doug Wilson. I love those teams, and they were so much fun to watch. And they probably win a cup, if it not running into the Edmonton Oilers. It seemed like every year. But some great battles in the 80s and early 90s. But I remember Jeremy Roenick coming in the late 80s when Denny Savard was starting to sunset. And it was like, who's this kid? He played for the Hull Olympics, and he was so much fun to watch. And so, everybody in the class of the Hall of Fame was amazing and all that. But I have a special soft spot for both Jeremy Roenick and Pavel Datsyuk. Like those two guys were every time worth the price of admission.
For sure. Maybe Kachuk gets in next time.
Yeah, that was Roenick was sure pushing for that and he knows his pain. Roenick waited a long time to get in there, just as Big Walt is right now. And
the tough part is that the next class, there's probably 4 gimmies between Chara, Duncan Keith, Joe Thornton, Carey Price. They're probably 4 locks, so there's nobody else getting in. So if you're Kachuk or McGillney, you're waiting another year, I think.
Yeah, just clean it up. You don't necessarily have to. It's a long ceremony. Maybe just tell everybody to shorter speeches, but or do 2 during the course of one calendar year. 2 different
you want
ceremonies,
more players in?
Well, I just think they should just clean up guys like Keith Kachuk, who, in my opinion, I think belongs in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So I think it's time to put him in. And if that means if there's a bunch of guys that have been waiting that clearly deserve a spot in there, then
get them in.
If it's too jammed in, then do 2 separate ceremonies in one calendar year, and I think we'll all survive that.
Yeah, okay, I'm in.
All right, then we should go, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you being here as always. We're on YouTube, so if you're just listening on audio, we're also on YouTube. The way it's working is we do 2 shows a week. One is audio only, and one is YouTube and audio. So that's how we're kind of laying things out for the time being. And wherever you're listening or watching, we appreciate that. And our website is sensnationhockey.com. That has not changed, nor has the hockeynews.com/Ottawa, where I am the site editor, and there's all kinds of great articles there. So I encourage you to check that out, thn.com/Ottawa. Thank you so much for being with us today, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Greg.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.